Hello, everyone. Welcome to H&D Abroad. I am Herman.
And I'm Dee, and we are so excited to welcome you to a conversation that we're having together. But we also regularly have in our community about choosing a place that feels like home. And that is really the focus of our channel. If you are new to H&D Abroad, welcome. We are two mid-career professionals, married with adult children and parents.
Parents, yeah.
And, we're just sharing what it looks like to navigate all of the pieces, including the financials, since we are not retirement age. We don't right now have residual income. And so, like property and things like that would readily fund our move abroad. So just kind of walking you all through, some of these decisions. We had the initial conversation about Spain. I think that might have been in January.
Correct.
And so we've kind of been like, let's get back to
dropping our options.
Yes. Let's keep talking about options. We know a lot of people in our community are considering Mexico. Others that may not have, to share our reasons why Mexico is really a beautiful place with beautiful people, and that it could be a place where you can check off a lot of the things that are important to you on your move abroad checklist. So this is our regular content on Saturday. We talk about moving abroad. So please remember to like this video, hit the, I was about to say hit the notification bell, and subscribe to our channel. We not only encourage those who are joining us live to say hello. Thank you to everybody that's saying hello in the chat. But if you're joining us in the future, welcome. Please put hashtag replay so that we know that this message will continue to be suggested to new people. So I think we want to go ahead and say hello. Hey, Tanya Brooks.
Hey, Tanya, good to see you.
Miss Aileen Brown. Yeah. Hey, living, loving abroad.
Both Steve and Sean. Good to see you.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, Pamela Jones. And hey, Stephen. It's really good to see. Hey, Lori. Y'all, let's see. So we have talked about why Mexico, y'all.
A little bit of an update for those of you who might be new or newer who don't know. In 2022,
yes,
getting my years right now, because in 2022 we got our visa in Mexico, and we have videos. We are temporary residency visas in Mexico. Hey, Daniel Brooks, good to see you. And we were really excited, and we have video. Please go back and check out our video on our experience.
We'll put the playlist, the whole Mexico playlist below as well.
And we took our youngest son, who was about to be 18 at the time.
He was 17.
And we took him, and the three of us, we got our temporary visas. On last year, we went, the three of us, and we renewed and got our 3-year visa. So any other time we go now is strictly for joy, or if we can get our two oldest to join us, and we'll discuss that later. We really like Mexico.
The people, the climate, the opportunities.
Absolutely.
The opportunity for Herman to practice more of his advanced Spanish from college.
She's telling lies. Don't tell lies. I know. Hey, oh, that's not even Spanish. See, yeah, no, yeah. I probably have had the most education and least success in Spanish ever. But yeah, so we wanted to kind of go over where Mexico was in our process now in terms of our options.
Yeah.
It's we're mentioning it because it is still, I think I can say, still high on our options list. There are places that we will explore with you later that some of them have come off the list or have
Might
don't
be
have.
more of an option B or an
Yeah,
option C. And that's what I love that that Tanya Brooks is talking about, you know, having a plan A and a plan B. And because we're gonna get into why it's it is Mexico continues to be on our list, even if it's not going to be our primary place. It's got so many important it checks so many of our boxes, especially when it comes to our family, our extended family.
correct.
So I love that. Paraguay. Okay, so I have been looking at Uruguay, Paraguay, Argentina
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
ooh, that I love seeing new places. Mexico, in a lot of the expat conversations comes up
Mm-hmm.
a lot.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Swangale, we don't retire, we ascend.
Absolutely,
Good to see you.
absolutely. So yeah, Lori's recently gotten her her visa, and I think that actually is a good start to the conversation. Is when you can find a place that, at least from your research,
Mm-hmm.
checks a lot of boxes. Like, you don't have to know exactly where you're going to go, but it's a good idea to, with Mexico in particular, we have seen this occurring where the uh, income solvency requirements, the income requirements are change every year.
Mm-hmm.
For some countries and some of the visa types that we're looking at, it hasn't changed as often. And so what I always encourage is go, do it now. For those of us who are working, that is why Mexico was a good spot for us, I guess, initially, is there's no time in resident requirement. So there are some places that we're looking at. We've had Ecuador as part of our conversation. And so that may be a place that we go when we have actually left the US and can spend time there to qualify for that temporary residency, whereas Mexico does not have that currently as a part of their requirement.
And I think a part of what Lori is saying here is important because Mexico is not just Mexico. And sadly, I think as Americans in particular, and I'll use that as the broad sense and you decipher that however you wish, is we tend to take a whole country or continent, pause, and make it like it's, one place you can go and you're everywhere in there. When we were in Mexico City, we've been to Mexico City twice and we haven't seen a tenth of Mexico City.
No.
We went to Puerto Vallarta and I don't think we saw half of PV.
Yeah.
And we haven't had a chance to explore all the other parts of Mexico that we're interested in. So San Miguel, Oaxaca, I almost said Guatemala. That's not what I'm saying. Yeah, all the other places. Guadalajara. Thank you.
It took me a minute.
Yeah.
It took me a minute too.
And the exploration of multiple places allows not only the in-depth knowledge of a place, but each of those regions bring their own personality and characteristic, and finding which of those personalities match our personality.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
both individually and the couple. That you know, so that is a part of also why we have not fully, because we're still wanting to see that what's it called, going without seeing, sight
Oh,
unseen.
side.
That just doesn't play well for me. That just I
But I can see the value of it. Adelia Aborshade of Picky Girl Travels the World says, she will do her Googles, but like I'm not, you know, scouting trips aren't a part of hers because she was like, I can make just about anywhere work. Y'all know where she says she's never going to do that place again, those places again, but that you can create the life that you want in just about any place. You don't want to have to what do you call that, throw out some of the negative things. So I love this question. Yep, that was exactly where I was going. So Aileen Brown, do you have to stay in Mexico until your residency application is approved? So this is why our playlist is so important.
That's a broader answer to that. So the first part of your application, the first part of your visa application is done in the States. So you have to visit one of the consulates. Make sure I get my phrasing right. One of the consulates in America, and they are strategically placed. We went to Atlanta, and there is a day of process for that. And then you have, is it 180 days? Or
No,
90 days?
You've got 90 days to be in country.
To be in country, to complete the process that is in country. And the answer part of that is yes. Okay. But it's not as long, it's not as long as some places where you got to be there months before it's over. But depending on where today, we were able to go and get our original visa done in 2 days.
We got the appointment on day 1,
right?
And then the next day was our appointment. When we went back,
we did it in a day.
So we went early in the morning. We were able to get our appointment and then come back 2 hours later.
Right.
And we had our renewal in hand by 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
We chose to do both in Mexico City. There have been rumors that have continuously flowed about who does it faster, and resources for processing the visa, creating the visa, workers, amount of people. It can be different from one country,
to one I&M office to the next. So get in those groups.
Remember that Mexico's official name is the United States of Mexico. A lot of people do not know that. Okay, so it's like driving to Texas trying to get your changing your residency information. It's more than just getting your license. You are a non-citizen trying to get residency. So it can take a various amount of time. Do your research. I think somebody said that up here. That was very important. Hold on. Yeah. Pam says she's still trying to get her plans B and C. That research part, the research doctor, we do consultations, and the research doctor can help you with that information, with preparing, how to prepare, what to look for. So please consider us as consultation for information like that. And for those people who worried about language, I think what they're saying, loving abroad, is saying right here is really important. When you're in country and you're with the people and you're working through that daily interaction,
and it's stuff you have to do. I mean, we're talking about, I got to buy stuff from the grocery store, to I need to find out why my bill looks different this month over last month with utilities.
Correct.
Or I want to add a service or delete a service. The necessity of the language increases. So yes.
And be aware that these 3 different countries, Spanish is not the same.
and within the country.
And within a country. So, and we're not talking about just dialect, sometimes meaning of a word, presentation of a word. You might be able to find that video and link it.
Yeah.
There's a video we watched, and it was a bunch of young people sitting there.
From the Dominican Republic, Mexico,
Puerto Rico, Brazil, Spain, and they were asked to tell a word in Spanish that they were given. And sometimes the word was the same, sometimes it was completely different. But start the practice and work from there.
So yeah, when you're considering the visa process, do you need to know Spanish? It would be good for you to have a basic understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Can you do it alone? Let's see. So we used a facilitator
for the first time.
For our initial 1 year, and then the second time, we used a lot of research to complete the applications and to complete the process ourselves. So I think being able to say from a confidence perspective, hey, I can do what I can do. You know, I want to know who the facilitators are, that if I get stuck in a part of this process, that while I'm there, I can ask for it. But a lot of things can impact the timing. As Herman said, the first year we had planned to go to one place. They changed the format of the card, and they had to reissue. And so there was like, they didn't have plastic. It was, still kind of during COVID.
Right.
And so just the residency groups are very important because people are sharing. I got my visa today. And a lot of times they'll say, I got in line at this time. I was able to do XYZ. They made me come back and give XYZ documentation. Get the clues from others who are doing the process so that you have an idea of what location and what and what time. And I don't want.
And Stephen, there are a lot of people in Portugal who also have their residencies in Mexico.
Yes.
So Rick and Halisi of Our Black Utopia started with their residencies in Mexico. There are several people in there. So consider that as a process. 2 different languages, but there have been a lot of familiarity things that what people have done. Yes, Pam, that's where we started, is that we started off looking at Mexico as options 1 through 5. It's so huge and there's so many places. And as explorers, as foodies, as people of color, the community, the way that they express themselves, and
the connection to the culture. I love to crochet, and I'm learning again to knit. And Adelia went to Oaxaca to learn how to create the dyes for fabrics, and I was just like, oh, I can't wait to get a deeper connection and knowledge of the culture from indigenous practices like cooking methods, dyeing methods. We're planning to visit. I'm planning to take him to tequila so that we can see how that is made as well. So
I'm gonna take this hot sauce to Tabasco.
Absolutely.
I'm going with Lori. I'm just gonna get on her ticket.
I'm telling you, yeah. So
get the biggest suitcase you got, because I'm gonna be packing in the suitcase.
We have got to get there for sure. I know we actually.
Hey, Michelle and Beijing Alpha 4. Good to see you.
Good question.
So, well, I'll give my thoughts. You give me.
Yeah.
So, residencies and residency requirements, and you can correct me, change from one country to the next. I think having multiple residencies is not a problem. And again, to reiterate, when I always say this, residencies and citizenship are different. Citizenship is, you want voting privileges.
A passport.
You will get a passport. Residency is I have the right to live here.
The legal
I can
right.
come here regularly. You can do things like buy property. You can depending on the visa. That's correct. So it depends on the kind of visa and where you're getting the visas. We're trying to stack visas. So we have visa in Mexico. We'd like to get visas in Spain. We'd like to get visas in potentially Colombia and Ecuador. We're looking at some visas in Southeast Asia. We'd like to stack some visas. And each process is individual independent. Come on.
There are a few reasons why, but we're always paying attention to what are the requirements within that visa.
Mm-hmm.
So whether that is time in country, as we talked about with Ecuador, you can have access to the visa. I know that Stephen and LaShawn talked about you could get the temporary residency. If you want it to lead to permanent residency, that's when you have to have the time in country.
Mm-hmm.
So if that is your strategy, then you understand how you want to access it. Otherwise, you've got to be in, if you want to do that temporary to permanent, and Stephen, y'all can correct me, but please understand you have to stay 2 years. You get 3 months. You can divide that up into however much time, but you can't spend any more than 3 months outside the country.
And this is Ecuador, right?
If
Right.
in Ecuador you want to qualify from the temporary residency to permanent. We also are prioritizing with the multiple, if we have multiple residencies, am I able to work? Is this
Mm-hmm.
the kind of visa that will allow me to earn my money outside the country? Are there requirements for me if I, want to have a local business and earn money from people in country? So there's I think having them, there's a lot of flexibility there. Our taxes associated with the kind of visa. So having multiple residencies, is that increasing my tax liability
Mm-hmm.
across countries?
Mm-hmm.
So, there are a lot of people talking about a lot of exciting places. With a US passport, we get in a lot of places, 90 days,
Mm-hmm.
to be there. And so is that enough time for you if you're slow traveling 90 days? For us, yeah. Do I need a residency for that? No. Especially if you're looking at after 90 days, then now this government is going to require that I pay taxes because I've spent more time in country. So there's, there are advantages and things that need to be paid attention to when you have them. But yes, I have not currently run into any stipulations where you can't, with a US passport, cannot have more than one residency. What I am finding out is there are some countries where if we were trying to get citizenship, that I would have to renounce my US citizenship to have citizenship with that other country. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Oh, hey, Dee from Brown Girls Invest too. Yes.
And Dee Walker.
And Dee Walker, yeah.
All right, so we're going to tap into some of our reasons why we are considering.
Okay, yeah. So we've kind of already talked a little bit about proximity.
If we go alone, we are close enough to our family.
We're talking about a 2.5 hour plane ride, because we have to stop through Atlanta. So yeah, it's not, we don't have any direct flights currently from our
So say
city.
2 to 4 hours
Yeah.
to be able to make, a trip back to the States to be able to address any potential things that may be going on. And how do I say this? And there are parts of Mexico that are very recognizable in terms of American culture.
Mm-hmm.
When we're in Mexico City, it's like being in LA. I mean, it's
Yeah.
big city, big buildings. You got all the major high end
Gucci. I mean,
outlets.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's because I believe, if I remember correctly, Mexico City is the largest city in North America.
Mm-hmm.
And when you consider all the big cities that Mexico City trumps that.
Yeah.
And it has what I consider, it's like boroughs of like New York. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
everything is independent and individual, and it is massive, and that's just one city.
Yep.
So you're talking about, you really can get lost exploring and enjoying and growing
And having access. I mean,
right.
When servant teacher Nikki, hey darling, when she said, I found a direct flight from the city that I'm moving from to the city I'm moving to. There are a lot of, especially if you live in a larger city, there are a lot of direct flights, and so proximity brings a bit of peace and comfort, especially if there are concerns. Mexico City, you can get to anywhere in the world, and places like, excuse me, Querétaro are they're getting in more flights, more international flights, the more direct flights are coming there, which gives you access to what is it, about an hour and a half away from San Miguel. Guadalajara also has a major airport. Puerto Vallarta has a major airport where you can, even if you're going from that airport to Mexico City to anywhere in the world, you're talking about that flexibility of access that a lot of people prioritize.
And these are also places where you can drop in and get your visa process done. So, hey, Dave, good to see you, fam. All right, another reason.
While we're still talking about the visa process, let's talk about family unity.
Fair enough.
I love the fact that Mexico highly values the family unit. And when I say that, I mean, if you are birthing abroad, your baby is a citizen, parents get access to permanent residency, minor, and then you can bring your other minor children, if you have other children, under that as part of family unity. And so that was kind of the first thing that I learned about. But then as we began to watch other videos and, research within the residency groups, people were talking about bringing their parents. And family unity, when you are considering how much long-term care, assisted living costs are, the family unity is super duper valuable to those of us who I don't want my mom to exhaust or have a fear of exhausting her resources. And so her ability to be able to qualify for residency under our process just means she needs to fly in. We present some forms. They, verify our residency cards, and she gets her own. That is a straightforward process that gives us access and flexibility that I was so excited to know that we could give this gift to our parents. So family unity. I know let's see. So Stephen is in the chat. You know, if family unity exists in other places, it's literally at the top of our list.
Yeah.
What do we qualify for? Yeah. Could we bring our parents along?
Yeah. Living Loving Abroad was saying that in Ecuador, you get dual citizenship because of the U.S. passport. Those things really touch into the, how do we move?
Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah. Accessibility is a big deal. And so those things really opened up, how we saw, making it an option, because we talked about flying back here to take care of some stuff with our parents and or children. But as Dee said, we can fly them to us. And we're already talking to our two oldest now about getting their visas through us or as a part of our process. They both make
good money.
They both make good money, and we would be potentially a resource for them to make that shift. Mm-hmm. I said Nikki and David said they're doing that with Nikki's dad.
Wow, yeah.
So
yeah.
That's big to be able to have that option.
We're really grateful for family unity. Let's see. So probably as a tack on, we talked about
access to
the cost of long-term care, nursing home care, medical care. There's the diversity of opportunities that, because it's not necessarily a part of Mexican culture to send their loved ones to a facility, they are now developing those so that folks can continue to live independently with within a reasonable cost of care, with the opportunity to continue to live in a beautiful place, warm weather, which my mother talks about all the time. She can't stand winters where she lives. And so even if it were temporary that she come and spend the winter with us in Mexico, and then she could go back home, that option where I knew she could have qualified doctors who speak English. I keep saying I'm going to share my experience going to two specialists while I was there.
And then you should give
in Mexico City.
You should give a bit of that. We can expand it a little. You should give a bit of that. We heard stories. Bobby from Aging Grateful talked about it. They were there, a week, 2 weeks?
They were there about a month or so.
And she had an injury that they were able to pay for out of pocket. When you're talking about out of pocket, that usually sounds like terrifying, but you're talking about a couple of $100 and you've gotten a major hospital bill taken care of.
Yeah, if you've ever had
urgent care, emergency care, and you're talking about being able to reach into your wallet and put down and say, hey, that didn't hurt. Healing my pain didn't hurt. That's a big deal. And so we went.
Let's see, but also the opportunities, not just to pay out of pocket, because that can be a little financially risky for those of us on a budget.
Of course.
But even the cost of private health care is also an affordable option that can be tied into a budget. And so, I mean, I just, as I learn more, I'm really appreciative of what Mexico has to offer with qualified healthcare. Y'all, if you live anywhere near the Mexican border, Arizona, New Mexico, Southern California, people are going across the border for dental care, vision care, for their regular medical care because of the quality of care and affordability. Do your research to make sure that these are board certified, qualified healthcare professionals. But when I opened the bill that I had, we're just talking about, I had an exploratory screening and we're a couple of $1,000s in the rear because of it. I have confidence in the healthcare I received right after we finished our residency, which the residency extension. We finished it on Monday, and so I said, well, if we had the time, I would go and see a specialist. And so I went to into one of a couple of the Facebook groups, got some recommendations, and uh, they shared their doctor's WhatsApp contact. That is how you make contact with the doctor.
Not the doctor's office.
With the doctor.
With the doctor.
And so I said, you were referred to me by X person. I would like to come in. Do you have an appointment today? I called, I messaged her on a Tuesday morning. She said, I don't have anything today, but I can see you tomorrow. Y'all know we don't get to see no specialists within a day, and definitely not to speak to them directly. While I was there, I needed to have some follow-up. And she called on my behalf to the specialist, who said, my appointment book is full this afternoon, but I can see you at 8:00 tomorrow morning. Two specialists I got to see within 24 hours. And in between that, told me where I could go to get all of the labs, any labs I wanted, but she also had a list of labs she wanted me to get.
And we walked up to the lab and had the labs done and the results
within a day.
Within a day.
I mean, and all of it cost less than $300. The labs, the specialty labs, if you know anything about, I wasn't getting no cursory, labs. I got my A1C done, but I also got full panels of certain things. Women of a certain age, we're trying to find out, what's happening with us. I had all those kinds of labs done, and to know that I reached out by WhatsApp to the care provider. She said before I left, if you have any follow-up questions, I had my images the same day, and I had the summary of my test results before the end of the week. That kind of care, and then said, here is the care plan. Here is the care plan for you. To know I have a concern about my body and to be able to have access. If money gives me access, it's not giving me access here in the States, and I'm paying a whole lot of money.
We go to the doctor here at home. We go to the doctor, and it's, how are you feeling? How's this going? We're talking about a conversation. If you're lucky, if they even if they even put their hands on you, and the bill comes through as a couple of $100 just to have been seen, and you waited 6 months for that appointment. And we walked into country, and in 3 days she saw 3 different levels. You see Steve, you're talking about, Sean had to have surgery, and they was able to be affordable, plus that public health care was available to them. Nikki is saying,
and that public health care is a part of the visa that they have access to.
Correct.
That's why having the visa over having just the when I say the visa, I'm talking about the residency visa over the tourist visa. Tourist visa doesn't give you access to the healthcare.
Yeah.
Residency does.
Nikki, for severe asthma, $53 for a visit with shots and medication. $53 not going to get you shots.
It's not going to even pay your copay.
It's just not. I mean, and to get, she says here, she got her teeth extracted, wisdom teeth, for $173. It's $173 just for them to crank
crank your mouth open.
Sabongale. I agree. It's concierge, and you're gonna be deep. Yes. Hey, Professor LCH, good to see you. Yes, you're gonna have to pay a lot of money to get. You've heard me say, I was having, what I was concerned were some serious health things that were going on that I was just like, these are not right.
The symptoms,
And the symptoms, I was like, I'm wondering if I'm having stroke symptoms. And with a referral from a medical professional, it was going to be 6 months before I could see a neurologist. 6 months. And I had a health crisis waiting to see the neurologist. And the only reason I saw a neurologist after the health crisis was because COVID had hit and nobody was going to the doctor. And it still was 3 months, 2 months before the original neurologist referral called me to say they had space. And this was after COVID had started.
Yeah.
There are people losing their lives, having major health crisis, just waiting to see and pay for a doctor.
This right here, Sabangale, I made an appointment with a specialty clinic in January. They cannot see me until June. You can't see a doctor for 6 to 8 months. It's not just medical doctors. It's also dentists are also medical doctors. No slight there. But it took us almost a year to see a dentist for a teeth cleaning. Y'all, come on. Yeah. Come on.
That's valid, Steve.
Yes.
That's valid. and it's not, we're not saying that the doctors and their experience, don't get me wrong, I'm a businessman. I'm not saying that the doctors and their experiences and their time aren't worth it.
But what they have to, I know what they pay on the back end for the insurance coverage, for the associate. I mean, it's all connected.
But it has a lot to do with the way that the system is set up in the United States. It disadvantages healthcare professionals, which then becomes a health disadvantage to us. They are going to get paid.
The reimbursement rate is deplorable. I mean, my parents, I know my dad decided to stay working longer so that in addition to the medical care for seniors, which is Medicare, would be their secondary health insurance, and that he could still cover with his primary. You have to have that kind of financial strategy, or else, as we've said before, medical debt is the number one cause of bankruptcy in the U.S. So yeah, I see. Look, y'all are just preaching to the choir in the comments for sure. And so another probably big area, after we talked about the visa, temporary visa, permanent residency to citizenship path in Mexico, is pretty straightforward. I mean, some people are able to qualify for permanent residency. That decision about temporary residency or permanent residency is literally based on the consulate you go to. During the pandemic, they stopped a lot of people who had the financials, not everyone, but the financials to qualify for permanent residency, but not the age. And so it sounds like they're getting back to, if you financially can meet the economic solvency requirements, then you immediately qualify for permanent residency. And so there are a couple of different paths people are using to get to permanent residency. We're actually really excited to have temporary residency because of the customs opportunity to bring things into the country that temporary residency allows over permanent residency. And so we know we would need to spend some time. I hate to say, is it 9 months, a year or so? If you have been a permanent resident for a certain amount of time, that a lot of times what some countries do is you take a test on the country's history, that you may need to have a language assessment, that you would have to speak the language at a certain level, and have spent some time in country. So, are we at this point looking for Mexico to give us access to citizenship? Not necessarily now, but it sure is nice to know that it may be an option if we need it. So thinking about not just my current needs, but what does it give me access into the future? Mexico is like many countries. What they may put on the internet as the qualifications may be different when you present yourself. That's why it's nice to have a facilitator, because they know exactly what is being accepted, rejected, allowed, or what's still in practice based on that particular consulate that they're an expert in.
Sabangala has a good question for you here to go back to the medical. Can you elaborate on medical tourism in Mexico? Can I go to Mexico just for primary care?
I am. You can look at your insurance and see if you can use your medical insurance in country for primary care. Sometimes it's just for emergency care, but I know more US insurance companies are actually allowing for reimbursement. They may consider it, what do you call that, out of network, but it is a reimbursable, care. Finding a doctor and working with that doctor. So to share with a little bit of transparency, I've wanted to see a hematologist. Because of what happened, and y'all can see what happened on our video. The soft landing video that we did, where I talked about the calamity that befell us, where we had to leave early, but I was supposed to see a hematologist during that visit as well. And he said, no worries, we can do telehealth. We can, and you can send your labs, or you can come, we can do a certain amount of things while you're out of the country, and then you come back in for us to do, whether that's treatments or just your other, the other parts of your care. This is a specialist talking to me. And so these groups, especially as a woman, we are sharing. We are sharing who we're seeing, who is, I want to speak to someone that has a command of the English language, where I can express what's happening to me, where I can feel like they understand, and that I can understand them. So yes, I think considering what we're paying for some of this care, if I had known that this is what we could have done for any of the current healthcare issues you were facing, that we could have gotten on a plane and gotten access to either primary care or specialty care, hospitalization, whatever was needed, screenings, blood work, because they were doing ultrasounds, MRIs at this lab that we went to. I would have done it to get that peace of mind.
Yeah, Servant Teacher Nikki is sharing that Dee from Brown Girls Invest 2 talks about her experience with healthcare and has had excellent care. And
Yeah.
and Steve is saying something really important here.
Oh, that's what I meant to say. Yes. Oh, I meant to say that. That was a part of my healthcare conversation. If you are a veteran, this is why I wish one of us had gone ahead and done it, or both of us. But yeah, your access to healthcare, to VA assistance. I know that several places in Ecuador are visa.
Yes.
There's a huge veterans population in Panama.
Now, Steve was saying that available for vets that qualify.
Yes,
he's a disabled vet and he doesn't qualify.
Okay, so check on that. Thank you.
Check what applies to you. Yes, thanks for that information, both
Absolutely.
of you. I mean, that really.
And we're not just talking about primary care; it's also access to specialty care.
Right. Here's the. Oh, you did this one already?
No. Okay.
So this is. We
couldn't leave this one out. It's multifaceted,
and it really encompasses a lot of what we just said in a lot of ways, because the access to those things and those opportunities, the potential ease, because it's not always, of the process and the visa process, it really made it a soft landing for us. And community is a big part.
Is going to make.
There are a lot of people right now in the chat, Nikki and David, D, who are in Mexico right now. We know we got some people to hook up with. Community is a big deal, especially when you consider what we talk about all the time, is that is something that we both admittedly have to grow and improve on. And excuse me.
So soft landing, I think, really means to me that there are a lot of points to struggle when you're moving abroad. I need to I would feel more confident if I knew the language, but if I don't, how could I get help navigating the basic things you need to do? I need to get access to housing. Where should I live? How do I ride? What are the public transportation or transportation options that are there? Finding a doctor, a dentist. If you have children, where do they, what are the schools that are available? What are the laws around homeschooling? Being able to lean into a community who has lived in that area and who support people as they're making their transition is what I would consider a soft landing, because of that caring that is a part of what community, what I can get to know people even before I land. And so soft landing, especially as we're getting started, is very, very attractive, because I don't have to figure everything out alone. If I'm the trailblazer on this side for leaving, I don't want to have continued headwinds when it comes to, okay, now I got to figure all this other stuff out without help on the other side, without some communities, people are there saying, hey, I'll take you to so and so and so, but that'll be $75 US. There are people in community that are leveraging that for personal gain. But there are other people who are like, I can tell you how to do these things, and there's not a charge for help, for pointing you in the right direction. I don't say soft landing means I can show up and say, I'm here, somebody take care of me.
No. And one for effect, no. Yeah, I appreciate Cartes of Move Abroad and Thrive, who said, stop showing up here expecting him to, make it work for you. It's okay to say, hey, I want to make connection with you. Can I get some resources? And and for the point of saying, if people are using, if have made that request a profit option for them, I'm not mad at that, because we want to make sure that we're not taking advantage of people simply because they're there. But yeah, don't show up unprepared.
Yeah.
Show up like you're gonna be there alone.
Yeah.
and then explore the benefit of having the community.
Yeah. It gives you another resource for vetting information. So somebody asked a question, and Trey Wanderlust Souls. Okay, so yes. Okay, so finding the groups. So if you're on Facebook, that's probably where a lot of the community aspect. You can follow individual people on like Instagram or Twitter, but I feel like Facebook gives the collective community that you can go back and research. Mm-hmm. So you can type in Mexico on Facebook there, you can see the basic groups there. You can type in, let's see, Mexico expats. You can look, and then you can also look for the city. That's really where you're going to get more of your referrals to a doctor or dentist or schools and things like that. Is you want to look for expats in Mazatlan, expats in Mexico City. If you're looking for specifically groups of color, so people of color, that's Black people, brothers and sisters in a particular city. I think there's also one like Black in Mexico or Black in Oaxaca. And so those are your that is your gateway to getting in and connecting your research to what's actually happening on the ground.
There are two comments here that I'm going to go back to. One from Stephen here. He says, lines are starting to form at the USPS and other places for people getting passports. Encourage your family members not to sleep on getting theirs.
Yes.
And then Danielle Brooks says she just got hers for her young adult children. And she said it was emotional coming in the mail. That was this one here.
I cried like a baby. Because what I said to our daughter, our sons had theirs because of trips they had planned to take or had taken.
And they were open to doing so.
But our daughter was like, everything I want is here in the States. And I said, this is something you as a 24-year-old can bring peace to your mother and father's heart. Mm-hmm. And from that, she was willing. And when I say peace, I'm talking about this mama wants to know I can get my baby on a plane and get her to me if that needs to happen. And so,
and then turned around and said, where is it? Where's, she called me a couple weeks ago, where's my passport?
Well, watch out there now.
I was like, it's in a safe place over here waiting for you. and recognize that the importance of that for me is, there were things when we were young that you remember that your parents forced you into, that the importance of didn't show up till later. Mm-hmm. There were things that were chewed at you in your ear that the depth of that information did not show up till later. Sometimes we do have to be careful about what we say and how we say things. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But failing to say them, failing to encourage them, failing to provide those things, I think sometimes still can be a loss. We encourage our young people to be young adults. Make a decision. Our 19-year-old came and said, hey, I want to know if I can go and stay so-and-so. And I said, young man, you're not a baby. All I ask for is for information. Mm-hmm. I don't ask for you to come and ask me permission. I ask for information. What are you doing? Where are you going to be? So that if push comes to shove, then I have a way to know where to reach you or how. I ask that of my wife, who is grown. Mm. When she walked out the door here the other day with a friend to go for a walk, I said, "Where are you walking? Which way are you going?" I wasn't gonna follow them in the car, but if it went bad and she called me and said things are bad, I knew which direction to head into.
Mhm.
That's a safety thing for
Right.
me, as well as a safety thing for her.
Yeah.
And that encouragement and that growth process for them is important. And encouraging them to do that, sometimes even forcing them, is really important because they're going to look back and we have had videos. You had a conversation with Tracy Collins, who's also down in San Miguel, who said, hey, I had to, you got to encourage them. After they get to a certain age, you can't make them. Okay. And that includes parents as well. We have parents who don't have passports or
who's getting it because she wants to. That's my only saving grace is she wants to go on a trip.
Okay.
And so I was just like, well, thank goodness, because I don't know how I could have weaseled her into renewing her passport.
Because, and I'm using this phrase, runaway doesn't always suggest I'm hopping on a plane and leaving the country. Sometimes it's I need to get in my car and drive down the street. But when you get to a point in your life where driving out of the state, driving out of the city is a little more a little riskier, then I need you to get on a plane and come to where I am, which is away. And so, those options continue to encourage the people
mm-hmm.
young and old, family and friends, to get a passport.
Yes.
The United States is changing some of its requirements for traveling. I'm assuming it's happening everywhere, but they're asking now for what's it called? The STAR ID.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So you either get a STAR ID on your driver's license or you take your passport to travel within the U.S.
Within the U.S.
Starting in 2025.
Okay. And those, pay attention to what's happening where you live. There are bigger ramifications when you now have to say, I have to have a specialized driver's license so I can go from, Texas to Louisiana, from Florida to Georgia by plane. Mm-hmm. Pay attention to what's going on. Get a passport.
Yes.
Get a passport. Our last reason for considering Mexico is just because we love it. We just,
food.
I find Central and South Americans in general to be a warm and inviting people. There is an energy that is who they are that appeals to me as a person. So I'm speaking individually here. That appeals to me as a person. Now, that doesn't apply to everything and everybody and everywhere. Okay. We still live in a place where my American Blackness has history. Mm-hmm. I know there are people who say, oh, they don't know, and I mean, there are some people that applies to that they don't know what's going on with us here. But
the American media has exported.
Right. I am an American and I am American Black. I'm about this. This is the only hoodie I own. Okay. So I am about as unhip hop as you can possibly get. Steve has got some games coming up for us to play, and I've already laminated and bricked up my black car so it don't get taken. You're gonna have to emergency brake to get it. But that doesn't change the fact that there are things that go before us. Mm-hmm. But in general, I love the area and the region, and Mexico has hit for me from the beginning. Is it necessarily still the number one option, the best option for us? We're still working through that. Mm-hmm. We're still considering that. But is it high on the rankings? Absolutely. Absolutely.
What I'd like to share about Mexico is this. there are a lot of hurdles that we are navigating. Cost, um, what do we currently have access to that we don't have to really figure anything else out about? And Mexico is a great. Mhm. Yvette Boone is in the chat today, and I feel I'm feeling called to another career break. And I think it may be where we need to start.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
it may be where I need to start my healing before we start our slow travel journey. Um, there are places, multiple places in the world where there is positive spiritual energy. There is a respect for the earth.
Mm-hmm.
There is a respect for the growers of food, for care of the body as a living temple.
Mm-hmm.
Considering that
Mm-hmm.
I am a person that that is a part of their belief system, and I long to be in a culture where I don't fight that there is a rest culture, that there's a culture of joy. There, the scowls that we have to wear. And I listened to a gentleman, and I'm going to post his. That's what I shared with you yesterday. I listened to a gentleman who lives in New York who said, when people look at me, they think I'm mean. And it's the protective outer layer I have to wear for survival.
Mm-hmm.
As a Black man, as a 40 plus Black man, I have always had. So you're talking of 40, 50 years of having armor, and there are opportunities. We have to create opportunities for joy wherever you go.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't feel like I have to put on a mask, put on armor. And that is the piece that I have experienced
Mm-hmm.
during our time in Mexico, which has endeared itself to me, that people will, even if I look American, I look American. As a matter of fact, the hairstyle that I had when I went the first time, I think I got more stares because they were like, who is this lady with all these, with all this hair? But it was not staring like I've been stared at here in the States.
Not rude stares.
It is not, it is to have people readily smile at me where I'm not just smiling to create that smile synergy. Mm-hmm. I have been blessed by the people of Mexico, and I have seen the stark difference that I could experience as an immigrant in their country versus how I see that immigrants are treated in this country. And I long for that. And I'm grateful for those positive experiences that have shown me love, compassion, helpfulness. I mean, when we got lost in the subway, to have somebody say, this is where you are, this is where you need to be, and I will take you there.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was a police officer, which, you know, our history here, that someone, do you need help? She could barely say, that. And we showed her the map. This is where we are. This is where we want to go. I'm in desperate need of that kind of healing in my experience. And I have experienced it I have experienced it in Mexico. I know as I'm listening to those who are in the chat who have shared their experiences with us that Mexico isn't the only place, but I'm grateful that our first launch with our visa experiences and weeks that we've spent in Mexico, that has been our experience and can be the experience you can have as well.
That's our thoughts. If you have not explored Mexico as an option, there are many people in this chat you can connect with who are in Mexico, who are doing that damn thing, who are getting it on. And it's worth a trip. It's worth a trip. It's worth the exploration. Mexico is not for everybody. I mentioned earlier on in the broadcast how large Mexico City alone is.
Yeah.
And I part of that is because I want to say to you, don't make a decision about the whole based on a place you visit, especially if you aren't there for a long period of time. Tracy Collins started in Mexico City. You hear her talk about it. She didn't vibe with Mexico City. She's in San Miguel. She loves San Miguel. You didn't like every city and every state here where you are. That's just, that's just part of reality. Find the place that is best for you. Do the exploration, little trips. Little trips. Invest in little trips. Invest in little trips by yourself. Invest in little trips with someone special, because those are two different kinds of trips. Okay, and explore. We got on. We're here doing this house sit, and we got on the electric bikes this weekend. Rode over the town. It's
I'm up for the adventure.
Absolutely.
Up for the
Absolutely.
adventure.
I am not 12 years old on a bike anymore. And every city street is not meant for an old backside. But I enjoyed the adventure and the adventure of travel, the adventure of exploration. You might just say, hey, I found a new place to be.
Oh, Professor LCH, girl, you just opening up. I need to do a whole episode on just being able to lean into your femininity. Once you take off, once you can take off the armor confidently. Yeah, there are multiple opportunities. Please, we live in a whole world with numerous experiences that you can have. Challenge what you have been exposed to. Maybe your place isn't always the center of the universe or the best place in the world. And I'm growing in my knowledge of what that looks like, and we are glad to share that with you. So please like this video.
We've seen a lot of new names in the chat today. Welcome to you all.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming. We are excited to share our thoughts and opportunities with you. And
yes, share, subscribe.
Absolutely.
Just right after we're done with this, I'm going to drop the whole playlist, our Mexico residency playlist, where we tell what we did, what documents we completed, who we are watching that did it.
We've been talking about doing a downloadable.
Yes.
On the general process.
Yes.
Look in that description. There's a lot of stuff down there. There's a lot of stuff down there.
Absolutely.
And check us out. We are H&D Abroad. I'm Herman. This is the beautiful D. And we'll do this again on next week.
Bye for now, everyone.